papers and our thesis. So what that simply means is that when you write your paper, and then for the ones that did the papers long time ago, and then later you put them through Turnitin, and then you realize that they were over 20%. So those are the ones that we only uploaded the abstract. Okay, let me try it from here. Those are the ones that we only uploaded the abstract. But for those
Excuse
that
me,
yes,
me.
Yes, please.
I'm requesting, please, for the recording to be done because some of us need to follow up. We are still on the road.
I thought at some point I was told the recording in progress. Somebody I think must be recording. Dr. Yu, are you recording the session like we did last time?
It's being recorded.
It's being recorded. Thank you. So this is the library page, and I was just explaining that why you'll find some theses in full and others you get the abstract. So those that have the full theses are the ones that were below 20% similarity index. But anything that had over 20% similarity index, we did not upload the entire document, but rather we only uploaded the abstract just to give you an idea what was researched on. So this is our library page. Like we said last time, when you go to off-campus access, you get access to our e-library. So our interest today is on the repository. So when I click on the repository, it should be able to open the page where you can access now our content, that is the intellectual output of the Daystar community. And this community has, this database has various communities. So you can see we can get projects for students here, you can get conference and workshop papers, you can get the archives from the Daystar community here. You can get other publications that have been done by Daystar community, indigenous knowledge from Daystar. You can also get lectures and speeches from Daystar, multimedia resources, policy reports. This is what I know is going to be of interest to you, theses and dissertations. And then lastly, you can also get the university exam bank. So I'll basically focus on the two, on the thesis and dissertation, and then on the exam bank. So when you click on this link for theses and dissertations, we have two kinds of publications in this community. We have the PhD dissertation, then there's the master's thesis. So you can decide and say, I only want to look at PhD dissertations only, or I want to look at master's thesis. And then again, to be able to access what is found in this community of theses and dissertations, you can decide and say, I want to look for theses done in 2021 or 2022, or you could say, you want to get a thesis by a particular author, say it is someone you know and you want to see what they researched on, you can click on by a particular author. Or if you know the title, you could search by the title. Or if you know what the thesis was about, you can search up with the subject as the term, or you could search by subject category. So let's try and explore the master's thesis. So when I click on master's thesis, there we go. So you can as well decide to browse by the school, where you say you only want to see what was published by the School of Applied Human Sciences or Arts and Social Sciences or Business or Communication. Or like I had explained earlier, you can decide to search by the year of publication, the author's name, the title, the subject, or the subject category. So assuming I'm from the School of, I think it should be Arts and Social Sciences, that is where education should be. So let's see. So here we are. So you can decide to go through what we have. Like now we have 20 out of 34 theses. So you can look through and see what you have. And then if there's any that is interesting to you, I'm just trying to look for any. Assuming you want to look on this at this one, exploring the influence of social media on journalism in Kenya, I'll just click on it like that. I can read the abstract here. I can see when it was published. I can look at the author's name. Then you can see the description, the keywords are there, how to cite it. This is the URL that you can put in your reference in case you want to cite this particular article or thesis, and then you can look at the full item page. So when you look at the full item page, you should be able to download the thesis from right here. So when I download, okay, I'm still trying to see what to download. Just a minute. Don't know why it will tell the name. Simple image. I'm trying to, okay, download. Yeah, right there. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. Okay. Okay, so from there, then you can get the whole thesis is right there and in PDF format. So you can be able to read through and get guidance and borrow one or two ideas from the thesis as you start writing your own thesis. So that is how you're able to access thesis from our repository. Then I also wanted to show you how to access the exam bank. So for the exam papers, you still go to the repository. So click on the repository. It will still lead us to this page. The exam bank was the third page, so it's right here. So just click on University Exam Bank. So once you're there, you can decide to say, I will pick on which school to search from. Do I pick from the School of Applied Human Sciences or Arts or Business or Communication? You pick accordingly. So say I want to check from the School of Arts and Social Sciences. Once I click on that, I can see Department of Education is right here. That is, I want to browse. Then I can see what is there from the Department of Education. You can see the papers are there. You are able to download. If there's any that you like, let's say this one on Education Administration and Planning, I can click on it like that, and then I'll be able to get the Word version for this particular document. Okay, so once I click on it, then I'll be able to get my paper. Okay, let me just share a new page so that you're able to see the paper I've just downloaded. Okay. So this is what I have downloaded, and you can see it's right there. Okay. So that is the way you can decide to browse. Alternatively, you can decide just to go straight and search. If you don't want to browse by the school or by the subject, you can decide to go ahead and just search for the publication right away. So let me go back to this page. I go to communities and collections. Okay. So you are in the University Exam Bank. You can decide, let's say we pick on the School of Arts and Social Sciences. Okay, you can decide to search, or maybe by the subject, for example. And then what are you looking for? Which subject? So the subjects are here. You can pick the subject that you want to look at, and then you can be able to move. Or you could still come and search at this particular search pane. So you can search from here. And the same happens also for the thesis. Thesis and dissertations. If you know the author, you come and say you want to search by the author, you put the author's name here, and then you search. If it is by title, you'll put the title here, and then you search. If it is by subject, you pick the subject, put the subject term here, and then you'll be able to search. So basically, that is what we have in our repository, and that is how you can make use of it. So probably I'll just take one or two questions regarding the repository before I hand over to Mr. Kumu to proceed from there with APA. Do you have any queries on the repository? Maybe somebody can ask if there is. Any query on the repository?
Hi, Efrain.
Hi.
I wanted to understand
Yes, please.
what exactly is in the exam bank?
The exam bank has past papers. You see, like every other semester, students are tested. There's an exam that is done. So what we do, exams for every semester from every department, from every school are given to the library, and the library uploads them on the IR. And we do that for you or for future students who would like to revise for the exams or who are taking the same units to be able to have an understanding of what is likely to be tested in the subjects that they are taking. And that can also form a very good basis for them when they're revising for that exam. Stella, have I responded to your question appropriately?
Yes, and also about the theses that are found in the library.
Sorry?
Is there criteria that, and about the theses?
Yes. Every thesis that is done, ideally, you need to submit
them are
2
put.
copies to the library. Sorry?
For the theses and the dissertations?
Yes.
which one is there criteria that is used for the ones that are put out, or do you just put all of them?
No, we don't put all of them. I think I had explained that at the beginning, that before we put these resources on the IR, we have to do another plagiarism check. We have to ensure that what you are putting in IR is very good work, because at the end of the day, our IR is exposed to the internet. So everybody can search and access content within our repository. And we don't want to expose ourselves by publishing work that is not of good quality. So we have to do another Turnitin check just to ensure that what we are putting out there is what is below 20%. So once you submit your thesis, the final CD that you bring to the library, we do another run. If your thesis is above 20, we only put the abstract in the repository. But if it is below 20, we'll put the abstract as well as the whole document online for the rest of the world to be able to access it. Have I answered you?
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy is asking, what is IR? IR is institutional repository. That's why I said that is where we keep our knowledge. That is where we preserve our knowledge as Daystar. That is why anything a lecturer writes, anything students write, anything we present in conferences, we store it in our repository as a way of trying to expose it to the rest of the world. Okay? Oh, Paul has responded on my behalf. Thank you. Is there any other query about the repository somebody would like to ask? Any other query? Faith, your hand is up.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Okay. I think I've only got the repository part of the IR, but I'll check the chat. Now, you keep mentioning about 20% below and 20% above, yes. All that kind of stuff. Could you share more with regards to those percentages?
Okay. Those percentages, okay, it's all about the level of plagiarism, where plagiarism is where you have picked somebody's ideas and put them in your work and failed to acknowledge them appropriately, or just like now when you're given an assignment to write, and then you just go to Google Scholar, for example, you search for content for that assignment, you get the content, you just copy and paste and copy and paste and put in your work without citing what you have copied appropriately. When that work is put through a plagiarism software, it's going to pick that that work has been copied from somewhere. So when you hear me say there's 20 and below 20, usually our similarity index is capped at 20% as policy. So anything below 20 is acceptable. Anything over 20, you can't be allowed to do the proposal defense or even do the final defense. Worse still, you can't even graduate when you have more than 20% similarity index. So what we do is that as you write your paper, like Mr. Kungu will take you through the APA and the referencing and all that, that is what you need to follow so that you're able to get it from the word go. That whenever you borrow someone's ideas, whether you write them in your own words or not, when you quote somebody and put that quote in your work, you need to cite it appropriately to avoid it passing for plagiarism. Okay.
Thank you. So citation is also a very key thing to do.
Sorry?
So citation is also a key thing to make sure one does.
It is not a key thing, it is the key thing. When you're writing, it is the key thing, because you need to make people understand where did you get your ideas from. You see, at a level of studies, you can't write a document without borrowing an idea from someone. So you actually need to tell your reader, this content I borrowed from here, this sentence I borrowed from here, this idea I borrowed from here. Regardless of whether you're copying the statement word for word and putting it in your work, or reading the statement, understanding, and writing it in your own words. At the end of the day, the idea is not yours. It is a borrowed idea. You need to give credit where it is due. So in academic writing, referencing is the key. You need to reference properly, or you need to cite properly.
Ephraim?
Yes, please.
Yes, because we have a full session on plagiarism.
Yes.
Maybe they can reserve that one. Then we allow for the full presentation on plagiarism. They get the full information about plagiarism.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ephraim.
Okay, so I think then in that case, I can stop there. Seems like there are no any other
Before
questions.
you stop, Ephraim.
Yes, please.
I was asking about when you want to search, if you are in the School of Arts and Social Sciences,
You've said you either use the by issue date, by author, by title. What if you don't know, you just want to read something so that you can at least you can get a glimpse of what you want to do? What
You
do you
just
mean by
want
the
to-
subject?
By the subject, what I mean is, if though you're saying you just want to read something, assuming I want to write a document or I want to write a paper about like now education leadership or something of the sort. You see, I don't have any particular author in mind or any title in mind, but at least I know I want something on education and leadership. I'll just come here and write education and leadership. Okay, and see if there's anything on education and leadership. So actually there is none. I think we are depending on you guys to do something for us because your program, I think you're the pioneer group for that program, but at least education, there's something on education and educational administration. Let's see this one. There's this one on a study of issues and problems women face in attempting to pursue careers in educational administration in Kenya. Okay, at least there's a paper we can have a look at. It's actually a paper. So what you're simply saying, if you are to get anything out of any collection of information, be it a library, be it a database, there are only three things you can use to access the information. You either know what that title, I mean the book's title or the article's title, or you know who wrote that article or book. If you don't know either of those two, at least you know which subject area you're interested in. So you can go by the subject.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. I think then that is it. I'll hand you over to Mr. Kungu to pick up from there, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Evelyn. We can clap for her. She has done a very good job. Now we know how to access the information. Right from the other Friday that we met, we were able to know how to search from the library web. We know now how to search from My Loft. Now we are waiting for Jen. Jen is here with us. Jen is our university librarian, and she will be taking us through plagiarism. So she is ready with that. So ask all the questions in regard to plagiarism. She is here with us. You're most welcome, Jen. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Samuel. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ephraim, for that very good presentation. I believe the students have understood how to access the institutional repository. And I'm happy to see all of you, 41 of you on board. So happy to see all of you. My name, as Samuel has mentioned, is Jane Yobera. And I was not with you. I wasn't in the last session that you had, but my colleagues were with you, and I believe you were able to learn a lot from what they presented. So as we communicated to you, we were going to take you through a number of topics, some of which were taken through last week. And you are free to still come back and ask questions about what was presented. That is last week, part 1. You are still free to come back and ask about what was presented to you then. We are available for you all the time via email. Visit the library. I believe, I understand a number of you visit the library at the Nairobi campus and get help. So you are free to keep doing that, to keep visiting the library, both online and physically, to get all the help we need. We are here for you as a team to support you in every way. So today we have begun with the institutional repository. Then we'll have an overview of plagiarism, which will take us to APA referencing style, where you'll find the connection. Like Ephraim was mentioning that referencing and citing is very important for enabling you to write ethically and therefore not plagiarize. So we have plagiarism, then we get into the referencing, APA referencing style, which is what you'll be using. And then we get into a referencing management style, Zotero, to help you manage your citations and references properly. So it's good you be attentive so that you get the flow and understand all this. So without saying much more, I will share my screen to take you to the brief presentation on plagiarism. You can see my screen. The last time somebody showed me how to do the full slide while I'm on PowerPoint. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, you can just, you see that cup down there? Go where we have notes, down on your right where we have notes. Now there's like a small thing like a wine glass. Click on that one.
Can you see where I am? Where my
Yeah, I
cursor
can
is?
see. Move the cursor to the wine glass on the left. Now on the left of that bar.
Oh, this
Like
left.
the wine, no, on the left, yeah. Where we have the wine,
Oh,
like,
where am I?
You're gone,
This
yeah,
side?
you're okay.
I was okay here. Okay.
Yeah, so now go back. That bar line, you zoom in. Keep going as if you're going towards the next icon. No, yeah, keep coming that side. Keep coming on the left. Okay, we can use the simpler one. Go to slideshow. Go up slideshow.
Yes.
Then say from beginning.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Yuya. I'll not forget next time. Okay. So an introduction, and like I said, this is just an overview. So it's a brief presentation, and then we get into APA, which is going to take most of the time. So as an introduction, the outcome of any research we do is to either contribute to knowledge or extend knowledge. Those are the main purposes of any research we do. And that will mean that when you are in the process of doing your research or writing or reporting your findings, you will have to you are required to build on the work of others, because you're not just getting your information from nowhere. It's not all from your mind. You have to build on the work of others. And that is, you are placing your research in context. So therefore, when you are doing that, you realize that you'll have to do reading, you'll have to do what you read, you'll have to analyze, you'll have to synthesize similar or relevant work. And that means the end product of your work is going to have views that are your own, as well as views from others. And Ifrin alluded to that when she was talking about similarity index of 20%. Your work will include views and opinions from other people's work. Now, ethical research and writing mandates that when you have any view of another researcher or another author or another person, you must acknowledge that view. You must acknowledge that researcher. It is not your original work, so it must be acknowledged. Therefore, when we are writing, we need to write in such a way that the person reading your work, whether it's your examiner or just another person interested in your work, or it's an article you're publishing, so when the journal or the publisher is reading your work, they should be able to distinguish between your own ideas or views and the ideas of others that you have incorporated in your work, that you have included in your work, that you got when you are, getting all this similar work, all this relevant work to build your work. You should be able, so the person who is reading your work should be able to distinguish that. Now, if they are not able to make that distinction, it means something was not done properly in your work. It means either the originators of the work that you have used in your work, of the ideas or views, have not been given due credit. You have not acknowledged them in your work. Now, with that, we come to plagiarism. If you have not done that, then you have committed plagiarism, because you use other people's ideas, you use other people's thoughts, words, opinions, images, or whatever it could be, even data that you used, figures, tables, and you did not acknowledge, you did not credit the source of that work. Therefore, in your work, it appears like you have written it like it's your work. And therefore, it is plagiarism when you have not acknowledged any other person's idea that you've used in your work. We have different types of plagiarism. We have verbatim plagiarism, where you copy and paste. You copy everything as it is. That, and you do not do any acknowledging. You do not give credit to where you got that one. That becomes plagiarism. Copying itself is not wrong, depending on how you are doing it. But if you do not acknowledge it, that is copying and pasting. If you do not acknowledge it, then it becomes plagiarism. Now, how do you avoid that? When you directly copy text, and sometimes when you are writing, you'll find that there's some type of text that you cannot do any other way. You cannot paraphrase. You cannot write it in another way. When you do that, the whole meaning will change. What you needed to communicate will change. Therefore, you need to copy verbatim. Now, when you do that, you are required to quote that work in a direct quotation, opening and closing quotation. It's called a direct quote. You use opening and closing quotation. You cite the source, and you put the page number, the specific page number, that particular text that you have put in your work, where you got it from. You will see that more when Samuel is doing the APA presentation, APA referencing style presentation. Then there's the patchwork, or what is called mosaic plagiarism, where you are getting, different ideas or different phrases, opinions from different sources, and you put them in your work in different, you put them together in your work. Again, it is not wrong as long as you do it properly. You paraphrase and you cite. But if you just put the ideas there together, you put them together and you leave them as though they are all your ideas. You have brought ideas from different people, put them together as though they are your ideas, and you do not cite, you do not paraphrase, and if you do not paraphrase, you do not direct quote, then again, that becomes plagiarism. So when you do that, because sometimes you need to do that, because if you're communicating something and you're bringing ideas from different people about that particular concept or that particular idea that you want to communicate, you'll find that you need to do that. It's a good thing to do. But then again, you do it properly. You paraphrase and you cite. Or if you're direct quoting, you use you use quotation marks and you cite. And again, something to say about direct quotation, you do that sparingly in your document, because it's only for specific cases when you are required to use, or that you'll find that it's necessary to use direct quotes or to copy and paste directly. So that you do it sparingly in your document. Then there is paraphrasing plagiarism. This is where you paraphrase and you do not cite. You do paraphrasing, you change ideas, you change words here and there, you try to change the language the originator of the idea has used, you try to change the words, use other words, and you do not cite. You do not acknowledge the source of that idea, because it's not just about the word, it's about the idea, it's about the view of the originator. So if you do all that, but then you do not acknowledge, then that is again plagiarism, paraphrasing plagiarism. Global plagiarism, very serious, where you quote somebody takes a whole document, and we know it has happened in the past. There are people who have been penalized for that very seriously, where you get somebody else's document, either online or wherever. You get a full document, somebody's full document. It could be a big document or a small one, and you pass it as your own. You submit it as your own document. It could be for publication, it could be for examination. Or you get someone to do the work for you. That is contract cheating, where somebody writes the paper for you and then you present it like it's you who did it. That is global plagiarism. Self-plagiarism is where you use your own work that you did before, then you present the same work again as if it is an original work probably that you were already graded on or examined on, and you present it again for another examination or to be examined again at a different level or a different class. Or you submit a paper to one publication or to one publisher, and you submit the same to another publisher. Your own work, or even it's not just a complete document. Self-plagiarism is not about the complete document. It's you're copying from your work that you did before, and you are not acknowledging that original work. It is you, but you still need to acknowledge because it's another work. And sometimes you are actually plagiarizing. You're plagiarizing. You are offending the publisher. The publisher, if it is let's say a journal article, the journal that published the work, you are copying it for another publication, or it could still be for the same journal. So it is self-plagiarism when you are using your previous work. How to avoid plagiarism? The main thing, read and understand. Read and understand. When you read and understand, you'll find that you will not directly copy. You will not just paraphrase without citing. You will be able to paraphrase properly, and you'll be able to cite properly. You'll be able to paraphrase ideas without direct quoting. You'll be able to understand an idea and even bring in your own ideas. So read, and understand. Keep track of the sources of your work. This is one area that you find people get into plagiarizing when, out of a mistake, you wrote, when you are writing, when you are researching, you identified several sources, but then you did not keep track of them. You did not record them properly. You did not manage them properly. When you come to reporting your work, you find that you do not have your sources. You find that your sources are mixed up, and you try to write without them. You try to not cite. You do not remember where you got this idea from, where you got this concept from, and therefore you leave it unacknowledged. You do not acknowledge the source. You do not cite, and you end up avoiding. You end up committing plagiarism on something that you could have avoided. And one of the things we're going to do, or is going to present to you, is a references management software called Zotero, to help you track your sources, your reference as you go along, as you write, to enable you so that you do not get to that point where you are not able to track your sources. And related to that, you find sometimes you lose, you cite wrong things. You put in wrong sources. Deliberately, you find someone putting in wrong sources, deliberately, either knowingly or unknowingly. You put a wrong citation. You put a wrong reference for some content. That again amounts to academic malpractice, misconduct, which is plagiarism again. So paraphrase and cite, we've already talked about that. Quote and cite, when you direct quote, cite. When you paraphrase, cite. So unless it's your original idea, citing has to happen. It's either you paraphrase and cite, or you direct quote and cite. And remember, we say you quote, you directly quote sparingly. Use a plagiarism checker before you submit your work. Pass it through a plagiarism checker. Sometimes you'll be able to detect plagiarism that you did accidentally. That you'll be able, when you pass it through a plagiarism checker before you submit it, you'll be able to detect that and address it. There are various plagiarism checkers available, but there's the plagiarism checker that Daystar uses. So now I come to some of the specific guidelines on plagiarism by Daystar. So to detect any possible plagiarism in students' documents, Daystar has a plagiarism checker. Daystar uses a plagiarism checker. Currently, we use a plagiarism checker called Turnitin. And as Ephraim explained or mentioned, in the plagiarism policy, Daystar has a plagiarism policy. In the plagiarism policy, there is a set similarity index level, the current one. And why I'm saying currently is because it can be modified. And of course, when it is modified, it will be communicated to you. But currently, it is at 20% maximum. That is the acceptable similarity index, level of similarity Similarity index refers to level of similarity between your documents and other documents that you have used. The level of similarity. So the similarity index level currently set for Daystar is 20%. You can't go above that. That is the maximum. And this is because of similarities that are unavoidable in some certain aspects. It's not like giving you leeway to, to plagiarize because there's a percentage given. It's because of some acceptable aspects, like chapter headings. If you're doing a proposal or your dissertation, there are chapter headings that are similar, and it will be similar across documents. So a document that was submitted by a Daystar student previously, if your document is submitted on Turnitin, it will pick those aspects because they're similar. So the 20% caters for such numerous pages and other acceptable aspects. Other things like references, that is the reference list, is well catered for in the Turnitin system, such that the plagiarism it will not pick it as plagiarism. So what the main thing here is, it is the responsibility of the student, or it's your responsibility to ensure that you have followed all the guidelines, because when you submit work for assessment that is not your original work, and that there is indication through the plagiarism checker or otherwise, your lecturer can even tell plagiarism. Sometimes students will try to avoid plagiarism, and to avoid the plagiarism checker detecting in so many ways. Even if the plagiarism checker does not detect, and it detects almost everything, but even if you follow tricks to ensure that plagiarism checker does not detect, your lecturer will be able to detect those tricks. And it is unethical. It remains unethical, it remains cheating, and it remains plagiarism. It remains academic misconduct, and it is punishable. The postgraduate handbook is very clear on what happens when work is plagiarized. And I saw a question when Ephraim was presenting, a question on whether a student can be allowed to graduate with a similarity index of above 20%. No, because you have not met the standard. The standard is maximum 20%. So it will not be possible to graduate. Or even if it's a term paper, an assignment, it will not pass because it has not met the standard. So I'll stop there and allow some very short time for questions, if there are any, before we get to the APA presentation.
Hello, Madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, my name is Othello. Your presentation, that's quite elaborate, especially on the aspect of plagiarism. Thank you for the presentation. I'm interested mainly in the last part of the middle aspect of your presentation on plagiarism, and that is the self-plagiarism aspect. I wanted to know if in your work at Daystar, anybody has been punished or penalized for self-plagiarism. In that the temptation there is that it's easier for somebody who has done his master's in Daystar going into PhD to just copy their own original work, which they did in their master's level, and just because PhD is so rigorous, there's a lot involved, so they can just easily copy their master's thesis because they are doing a paper or their dissertation on a similar topic. Maybe you can tell us whether this has come to your knowledge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that question. Let me begin by addressing the second part of your question or comment. Yes, the temptation is there to because the work is rigorous to copy what you did in your master's. But you see, the policies are there, the procedures are there, because the whole idea really is to ensure that you learn, to ensure that everyone who goes through Daystar learns, get out of Daystar fully equipped and being a person of integrity in terms of their writing and in every other way. So measures have been put in place to ensure that academic integrity is upheld in writing and in other aspects. So Turnitin comes in, or the Turnitin or the plagiarism checker will ensure that that does not happen. Your lecturer will ensure that that does not happen. So the plagiarism checker will check for similar documents, because it will check against a collection of several databases all over the world. And the repository that Ephraim has mentioned, the institutional repository of Daystar, where we deposit soft copies of Daystar thesis, is one of the collections or the databases or the repositories that when the Turnitin checks documents against. So it checks documents for similarity. It checks against other documents that it has in its collection or in its database. And the Daystar repository is one of them. So if your thesis that you did previously in Daystar is in that repository that is being checked, then it will pick it when we run your current document. And it's not just the Daystar repository that Turnitin will check, repositories all over the world. So if it's a document that has been deposited in a repository in the country, in a university in the country, outside the country, by journals, a document that was published by a journal, wherever that document is published, Turnitin will capture it. Now, about whether a student has self-plagiarized before, I may not have a specific case in mind right now. Probably Dr. Ayuya asked, but I may not have a specific, but if it is, of course, found, it goes through the normal procedure as set out in the student handbook, as set out in the postgraduate handbook. Have I responded to you, Othello?
Yes, thank you so much. Maybe a big part of my question is the AI. People are so excited about AI, but to me, it has posed a real danger to academic writing. And recently, I got a story from IMF, which is also expressing concern about AI. Maybe you can also look at AI a little bit.
Thank you. And sorry, I wanted to mention that. Thanks for mentioning it. It had escaped my mind. AI, artificial intelligence, and currently the generative AI, which is about content ideas, where AI has tools for generating content, for generating ideas, images, and all that, which is what you are talking about, really, which is the case which is the issue now, generative AI, where we have ChatGPT and many other tools, by the way, it's not just ChatGPT, is here. And it is serving a purpose. The whole idea here is, I'll just make a statement, and I know that principles are going, guidelines are coming up on how, on appropriate use, what not to and what not to do with generative AI in academic writing or in learning. Guidelines are coming up soon, even for Daystar. But right now, the statement I would make is that there are several tools that assist in several ways, several generative AI tools that assist in several ways. How you use them is what determines whether you are committed plagiarism or not, or whether you have cheated or not. Let's take, for example, ChatGPT, which I believe everyone has used or is using. You put something there and it gives you content. Sometimes, depending on the kind of whatever you are looking for, sometimes the content is accurate, sometimes it's not inaccurate. And especially when you are talking about something about a personality, most of the time it tends to give inaccurate content. But you put something about a concept, it gives you some ideas. Now it's upon you to determine, and I'm just giving an example, ChatGPT. There are many other generative AI tools, and many are coming up. It's upon you to know what you'll do with that. Now, if you take that whole information that you've got on ChatGPT and present it as your own in your paper, you have plagiarized. You have not done any analysis. You have not established the exact source of this information. ChatGPT does not even provide the source. So that means you will not even cite. And if you cite, you're going to create your own citations. You're going to create your own references. You're going to lie. So it's going to be cheating. It's going to be plagiarism. It's upon you. This content that you get, and you could have been seeking for a definition of a concept. Are you doing exploratory or just background research just to get an understanding, so that now you research on that idea with a bit of understanding? Or are you doing it as you're using ChatGPT to write for you? If you're using ChatGPT to write for you, you are wrong. You are cheated, you are plagiarized. But if you're using it to just understand and then go now do a proper research and write ethically, academically, then generative AI has helped you. So if you use it and you cheat, it amounts to plagiarism. And it will be detected. Because, it will be detected in your content. But the idea is, it's not even the detection, it is use it ethically. Does that somehow respond?
Yeah, that is, thank you very much. Thank you. I think maybe my colleagues class here will also be able to see into what you are explaining to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or comments? Just one more.
My hand is up.
Yes.
This is Kathleen.
Yes, Kathleen.
Just building on Othello's take on self-plagiarism. Sometimes maybe as a student or as an academia, maybe I'm interested in one aspect or one area, and so maybe I would decide to do one topic maybe on say sexual and reproductive health and rights. And also when I move up to maybe the PhD level, I still want to do the same topic. And now that maybe I have more information, I would want to build on whatever I did in my master's. Why is it flagged up as self-plagiarism, yet I'm just building on whatever I had just maybe laid a foundation on? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen. First of all, unless I did not understand you clearly, first of all, you cannot have the same topic. You cannot have the same topic in a master's and you use the same topic in PhD. That is not, you can't do that.
Okay.
It's not possible. It can't happen. It would have to be different. It will be related, the same area, but it can't be the same topic. And you can't write the same thing. Otherwise, you are not building on what you did if you're writing the same thing. If you are using a big chunk of what you wrote in your previous work, then what you're doing is not original. You're not building, you are duplicating. So you'll find that you will need to borrow just the same way. And by the way, it's the same concept. The way you borrow from other authors, you would also borrow from yourself, from your work. It is your work, but a previous work. A work probably you did in 2022, and now you're doing another one in 2024. It will be Otieno 2022.
Okay.
So you'll cite it as such. That's answered?
Yes, it is, clearly.
Okay, thank you. Brenda, you have your hand up. That is going to be the last one so that we have at least time for a bit.
Yeah, hi.
Yes. Yes, Brenda.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My network is really misbehaving, but I would like to take you back a little bit on the citation. Would you please maybe make probably take me through it once again, like when you're, I don't know whether I had you right or what, but when you are mentioning on how best can we be able to do the citation so that we doesn't appear like we plagiarized, I didn't hear you clearly.
Okay. And okay, what I said was when you are borrowing from another person's work, you have to acknowledge them. You have to acknowledge that source. You have to acknowledge that person. And borrowing can be the way you put other person's idea or opinion in your work could be either by writing directly, verbatim, exactly as they have said it. And that is only in cases where you cannot change that. If you change it, the meaning changes. Or there is no other way you can do it. That's why I said you do that sparingly. Now, when you do that, anything that you have copied directly, you have to put it in opening and closing quotation marks. And you have to put the source in text citation. Now, which Samuel is going to cover in his presentation about what in-text citation is. And you have to have the reference for that. So this in-text citation has to be accompanied by a page number. And that is only when the page number applies only when you are direct quoting, only when you are copying directly. The specific page number, the page number of the specific page where you got that content that you are copying directly. The other way is where you paraphrase. You paraphrase that person's idea. You are not writing it directly. You paraphrase it. When you do that, you again cite, put the source of the only difference is that you don't put a page number. You indicate the source. Like now, for example, Taslin, we talked about probably a work, something she did in 2022, and then she's doing in 2024. When she paraphrases from Otieno 2022, she will say Otieno 2022. If she direct quoted, it will be Otieno 2022 and the page number of that particular page. In terms of the specifics of citing, quoting, because there's a difference on when the amount you are quoting, whether it is 40 pages or more than 40 pages, how you do it. In terms of those specifics, that will be covered in the next presentation, APA references time. Brenda.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes,
You're
yes.
most welcome. Okay. Cindy.
Nancy? Yes, so my question is, how much is too much when it comes to borrowing? I mean, whether you've cited or you've quoted, you've put the references, is there something like too much borrowing of ideas from other people when it comes to thesis writing?
Thank you. That's a very interesting and nice question. Yes, there is too much and there is too little. There can be too much and there can be too little. And when it comes to too much, you will actually be able to tell. If every sentence you write, you're citing. Every sentence you write, you're citing. There's a problem there. You're not thinking. Or rather, what it will depict is that you're not thinking. You're just picking people's work and paraphrasing or just trying to change people's words and putting there and putting a citation. So it is when you are writing, you'll be able to tell when you are using too much, when you are citing too much. At least your view, you present an idea, you talk about what another has said, and you talk about what you are saying about it. So out of all this, what these others have said, what are you concluding? What is it that you are communicating here? So yeah, there can be too much, and there can also be too little, which again may show that you are either plagiarizing or you did not do enough literature review. Is that okay, Cindy?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think we are now satisfied. And the other questions can come on the chat or even via our email.
Please, I have a question, a burning one.
Oh, a burning one. Okay.
Yes, two things.
Mhm.
Number one goes like this.
Hmm.
I've written my book
Mhm.
and it's been published by an institution, by a publisher, given publisher, let me say Daystar. And I purposed to review the book and made the second edition. This second edition, can I choose a new publisher? Can it be published by anybody else who is maybe another board that is different from Daystar University? That is question number one. Question number two is about AI. I've made a good research because also one thing that we would agree on is that if you do not know and understand how to use the AI, you might get everything wrong. Now I've utilized my brain to earn some wisdom from the AI, and I've understood from my own perspective, and I decide to put or write down my understanding on what I read. What should I do in this scenario? Is there any specific way that has been reserved in the APA 7th edition, whereby you would say, yes, the thoughts that you're reading here are original thoughts, but backed up by AI or something of the sort. I don't know if you get my question.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. As I try to respond, you'll be able to tell if I got it. The first part was about publishing, yeah? The first question on whether you can publish a second edition of your book with a different publisher. That was the first. That's what the first question was about.
Yes.
Now that depends on the agreement you have with your publisher, because you published a book with a publisher. So what is the contract saying? What agreement do you have with the publisher? Is it that when you do another edition, the same publisher will publish the book? Or are you at liberty to choose another publisher? Also, things that you have to consider when you're publishing with a publisher, especially like for a book, who owns the right of the book? Is it you or the publisher? So it's about, that one is about you and the publisher. What happens between you and the publisher? You'll find that there are times you're at liberty to, it's your book. It's another edition of your book. You chose that publisher when you chose that publisher. It's another edition. You can choose to publish it with another publisher. But then it depends on what you agreed with the publisher from the word go. I don't know if that is clear.
Yes, it is.
All right. When it comes to AI and you are saying if you get content through AI and you paraphrase it, that's what you're saying. Whether you present it as you can present it as your own now that you paraphrased it. Is that what you're saying? What was that the question?
Yes, yes. And how would you put it clear over there that yes, I paraphrased this in my own understanding, but it's from an AI generator.
Okay. Now, remember when I talked about AI the first time, I mentioned that some guidelines will be presented soon on AI. I will reserve the response to that question to when the guidelines come out, and they'll be coming soon, on whether you can cite ChatGPT or any other AI tool that you use. I cannot say you can't now, but let's wait for the guidelines that are coming soon. They'll be able to inform on that. Because what you're saying, if you are paraphrase the content, you're not just direct, you're not picking it directly. You have understood it, you have established its factual, because again, with this with the AI tools, you also have to establish that the content is factual, because you can paraphrase it, but then you get again into another misconduct of falsifying information or fabricating information. So you have to, establish all those facts. Is the information accurate? If it's accurate, you have paraphrased it, there's a source. Whether you can cite ChatGPT as ChatGPT this year or another AI tool, please let's wait for the guidelines, and they are coming soon. But in the meantime, use when you get content, let it be to help you to develop the concept further, so that now you know how to research on it and get other sources, accurate sources. Obadia, is that helpful?
Yeah, that is more than enough. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. I believe you have learned something, and you are free to put more questions on the chat and to keep talking to us about these issues. So I will hand back I'll hand back the session to Samuel, who will take you to APA referencing style. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you for that presentation. Now they understand the question of plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. I want now to talk about the APA briefly. You can take a breather.
Mr. Pung, you can put on your video.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm okay with the video. All right. Now you can see me. All right. So what I'm saying is that we take a breather. Do you normally take a break, Dr. That was heavy. It was heavy. You stretch for 1 minute, and then we get into APA. Are you able to stretch from wherever you are?
Yeah, they can. They shouldn't move. They can stretch 2 minutes, grab some water, get some coffee. Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. So we give ourselves 2 minutes. Only we meet exactly at 19:08. That would be fine.
So the PowerPoints will be shared. The PowerPoints presentation by Jen earlier, and then when you come in, we can always share with the students.
Right. I believe everyone now has taken a cup of water or tea and you're settled. You can be sipping as we continue. All right. If you're around me, then in the interest of time, we just move on. I want to move on from where Jane has left us in the area of referencing. I believe everyone is back, or do you still have Dr. Wait for up to 7 or 8? We still have 1 more minute. Okay. Let me allow people to come back. Then they will not accuse me of starting before they come back. But 1 minute, then it's fine. All right. I think now we are good. We can move on. You have taken your break. We have learned quite a lot today, right from the word go. We learned about how to access the information from our institutional repository, where Ephraim was able to take us through institutional repository. We now understand where to get past examination papers, essays and dissertations, and research output that has come from Daystar faculty, Daystar students, Daystar staff. They publish and then we're able to publicly present it there. We were also able to understand the concept of plagiarism. Now we are headed to the aspects of APA 7th edition. APA 7th edition. And as I talk about APA 7th edition, the one that could simply mean American Psychological Association referencing style, we will be looking at these three things. One, we'll be looking at why do we need to reference? And I think that has been handled very well by Jane. And then we look at that referencing style. And at the referencing style in APA, we'll be looking at in-text and reference list. And then we look at a few aspects of APA style. And why do we need to reference? That has been answered by Jane, because you need to acknowledge other people's work. You need to avoid plagiarism, the one that we have really talked about. And what is plagiarism? I think you have heard from Jane, is when you take someone's words, ideas, thoughts, images, as if they're yours, and you write them without giving reference to where you got that information from, then you have plagiarized. How do we avoid plagiarism? That we have been taught by Jane, and now you know if you put the quotation marks, if you put these marks, you'll be able to avoid plagiarism. But we'll be talking about these things in depth. Now, the APA itself, APA, which I have said simply means American Psychological Association. And part of the rule that you need to understand APA is one of the simplest styles. And it demands for two things, that you put in the in-text and a reference list. So we'll be looking at those in-text and reference list. And also it dictates that whatever you put in the reference list must appear in your in-text. So whatever is in your in-text must be appearing in your reference list. That is a rule that we must obey in APA. But we have an exception for major Greek, Roman classics, classical religious works, personal communication, we'll be seeing them. All these exceptions, you only put them in the in-text without necessarily putting them at the reference list. Under the in-text citation, we are going to look at these two types of in-text citations. We have parenthetical and non-parenthetical. We will also be looking at paraphrasing. When you paraphrase, how do you provide the in-text, or rather the citation? How do you cite it after paraphrasing, as Jane was talking to us? And how do you cite when you have done the direct quotation? You have quoted someone's work, just, you picked the words as they are, the sentences, you've put them in your paper. How do you quote them? How do you cite them? How to cite according to the number of type of authors. Sometimes you may have 2 authors, 3 authors. How are we going to deal with those numbers or a number of authors? We have now what we are calling parenthetical and non-parenthetical. In simpler terms, what we are calling parenthetical, you are putting in the author's information inside the bracket. An example is given here. You are writing a paper And then at the end, you tell us where you got it from. And you got it maybe from Smith, 2010. Then this information, the author's information, Smith, 2010, is put inside the bracket. That's what we are calling the parenthetical citation. The author's information is inside the bracket. And when you have two authors, then you use the ampersand. We'll be coming to this when we are dealing with the number of authors. Let's look at the non-parenthetical citation. An example is given here. When you're writing maybe according to John, according to Smith, you will not put the author's information, John, that Smith, you will not put it inside the bracket. It is outside the bracket, and that's what we are calling non-parenthetical. These two terms, we are going to use them as we continue learning about citation. So you need to understand parenthetical and non-parenthetical. These are terms that I'll continue mentioning, and you will find them in our 7th edition of APA. It keeps on talking about non-parenthetical and parenthetical. Simply understand it means author's information, whether it is inside the bracket or outside the bracket. When the author's information is outside the bracket, we are calling it non-parenthetical. When author's information is inside the brackets, we are calling it parenthetical. And it's advisable to use both types of citations in your document. This puts flavor, the taste. As someone is reading your work, they see you are well read, you're able to use both ways of citation. When it comes to paraphrasing, you can paraphrase, and after paraphrasing, then you use either parenthetical or non-parenthetical. When you don't use these parenthetical or non-parenthetical way of citation, then you are in for plagiarism. We will also be looking at the direct quoting. When you quote, or rather you copy the exact words, sentences of that original author. We'll be looking at that. Now, if you have direct quoting and you are quoting directly from a document.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Is this still just an overview or the whole thing? Because the speed is where?
The speed is high. I must go back and reduce the speed. From where would you like me to come back?
Just the previous paraphrasing.
Okay, paraphrasing. I will go back to paraphrasing. And even before paraphrasing, did you understand parenthetical and non-parenthetical?
Yes.
Just go back a bit, kidogo tu.
Okay, let me go back to
Some few
parenthetical.
slides back there.
There.
Excuse Mwalimu.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I should ask this question before you proceed. Would you kindly, if you may, give us the difference between the APA version 6 and version 7, so that we may start by understanding what are the changes, maybe the similarities, and why maybe why is that now we're using 7, not 6. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you very much for that question. And as we continue in each and every part of citation, I will be giving information as to why or what was happening in 6th edition and the changes that have been made in the 7th edition. One, especially like when it comes to the number of authors, that has changed. In the past, we could write the number of authors 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll be looking at that. But with the 7th edition, they have simplified things for us. So in other words, what we used to do in 6th edition has been simplified in the 7th edition to make it more easy for you as an author as you write your paper. But we'll be seeing these differences as we continue. To allow me to continue, then I'll be mentioning the differences. Like in the case of parenthetical and non-parenthetical citations, this one has no changes. It is similar. It is exactly what we were doing in the 6th edition in terms of putting either author's information inside the bracket or outside the bracket. But when it comes to the issues of trace of publication, I'll be looking at that. When it comes to things like the number of authors and how to cite them, that is where we get the differences between the 6th edition and the 7th edition. We will be seeing these differences, but it has made things easier than when we were using the 6th edition. All right.
So, yeah, and I was just thinking, Sam, you want to let them know that if you dwell much on the differences, it will causes more probably confusion, because you would more focus on the style that is there. We have to mention that there are different types of referencing, and AP is just one of them. And probably, I don't know if Mwalimu Kungwe, you're going to give some others. And it doesn't mean that even every field, even Daystar, by the way, you'll find that the School of Law does not, Daystar uses AP and adopts APA, but School of Law uses a different type of referencing. And I also know that a School of Theology, Department of Theology might have where they write footnotes. So maybe just an overview, but Daystar likely is an APA writing style, likely, and therefore APA, just like a book, you keep evolving and editing. So rather than dwelling on the previous edits, because if we have to go, we are simply saying that there was APA, and then APA 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. Now we are on the 7th edition as we talk right now. There's been a lot of evolvement around writing. So when you're using APA, we want to focus on the 7th edition where we are right now. Because should we go back, then we will have to keep answering the questions that why did we move to APA 6 to 5, etc. There are even some institutions that still use 6 and 7 gap up. But now we have largely adopted the 7th edition. And that's where we would like to focus more so that we can utilize the time as much as properly to tell you how do you, when you're writing your main document, how should you write your references inside the main document and then outside the main document. If you're quoting one author, or 3 quarters, like for example, if you say 6th edition, when you had to mention first the first 6 authors before, but now that has changed. I think if I'm not wrong, like now is 3 authors and then you move on and then you use et al. So we would rather focus on a current edition so we don't confuse ourselves, so that we start, these master's students officially start with the 7th in their mind. They don't want to know what really has evolved so much. It is more of what are we currently using and what should we be using in the field. Should you now come, you never know. Probably even by the end of the year, we'll have an 8th edition, but the university will pronounce itself at that point of time if they want us to move the next edition or we're using 7th. So currently, as for the student manuals, we are actually using the 7th editions. And that's where our training will focus more, so that we don't pull people. Many of you, when we talk about referencing and APA, you don't know, because some of you have been using footnotes, I don't know what. Now, we'd rather focus on this. I don't know if that will help. As we move on, it will be much easier. And when you don't understand a term like, do you know what is a parenthetical citation? You should ask, and we move on. What does it mean to be a first? That kind of thing. So we'll look at it and feel free. For example, Professor Dr. Mr. Kungu. Yes. For example, in demonstration, if you look down, I don't know if you put your cursor down there, are you able to get a whiteboard? Should you want to use a whiteboard, you are free to use a whiteboard. A whiteboard is usually there. And usually how you do is simply you click Control and white, it will give you a whiteboard, but it will not, for example, if you want to write. But I don't know if you have on the pen on the other side. Usually I use pens. If you want to mention anything, maybe I should tutor all of us a little bit, but you can write if you want, and use a pointer. I don't know if you, on your side, you can see a pointer, whatever you want. Okay, you have that one. So class, I think we focus more on the 7th edition because that's where we are, so that we don't confuse anybody else who has never gone through another edition and they just thought this is the current one. It will really help you. I hope it's a better option. But was asking that question? Do you still want us to focus much on the previous editions? That was asking.
Obadiah. Yes, I it was like just now getting the background, like maybe the history, so that I may understand well the current. Thank you.
Okay. I think now with that history, maybe we took an assumption that we know what these references and what they mean based on.
No, they don't know. They actually, some of them were in class long time ago, probably. Some of them have also been in public and private places where people don't. Actually, APA is mostly taught around master's students. So this is just their second semester. So they've been making quite a lot of mistakes, but now we want them to start getting it right.
I want now to start from where Ephraim left us when we were dealing with the thesis, so that we start from the end, then we come to the beginning. And before I do that, let me first of all answer the question of referencing styles. There are so many styles, and we'll be looking at that when we are dealing with the Zotero. You will see the hundreds and hundreds of styles, some of them quite difficult, quite hard, but some of them are very easy, like APA. And with APA, as I have said, you only need to do the in-text and the reference list. And there are others like Dr. Carol was talking to us, the ones in School of Theology and others in different fields. You will find some using Chicago, others using MLA, others using Harvard. But in Daystar plus other universities, especially in Kenya, they have focused on APA. Now, when I was talking about the in-text, I also made an assumption that maybe you understand what an in-text is all about. Even before I talk about those types of in-text, like this one is a thesis that I have just downloaded from one of in our repository. And I got another here called Adams. You can see the Adam here. And this one has been put outside the bracket. So Adams 2023. And then we have the comma here. And then we have Tamio, and then we have the comma here. Let me see whether I'll get another one inside the bracket.
Yes, Reverend, they are very tiny. Some of us, I may not be able to see. Okay.
They are good now?
No, still small.
They are still small?
Still small.
Even now?
That's better. That's better.
That's better. So you can see this Adam, 2003. So the other's information is outside the bracket. Is this, what do you call this? Parenthetical or non-parenthetical? When you have the other's information outside the bracket.
Non-parenthetical.
Yeah, non-parenthetical. But then I was looking for an example where we have the other's information put inside the bracket. I hope you got it. But what I meant with citation, when you're paraphrasing, when you're writing a paper, you tell us where you got that work from. Like this one, Submitavo et al. Is it parenthetical or non-parenthetical, this one? This one. Can you see some
parenthetical?
Okay. Then when you do the in-text, when I talk about the in-text, this is the text. He's writing the whole of this text and putting the in-text citation to tell us where he got this work from. Such that if I'm interested in, like the first case we had Adam, if I'm interested in reading further about Adam and what he talked about, especially being referred by this author, then I can go to the reference list. And the reference list normally at the end, I'm opening now. Yeah, here the reference list. And I can see Adams, 2003. Full information about Adams is given here, whereby now I can get the title, the author, and even the link, that if I click this link, I'll be able to retrieve the same document. So what happens with APA? You give us the in-text where you give the surname in the surname of the author and the year. But at the reference list, then you give us the full information about this particular author. And I'll be talking about that full information as we continue. All right, now I think we have an understanding of the in-text.
So, excuse me, Dr.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Okay, when you talk about author's information, it's just about the name and the year of publication. Is that what you mean? The author's information? Because to me, I thought maybe when you talk about information, maybe what he said, he or she said. Yeah, so that,
Okay.
yeah, and that's what I was trying to, because now this one to me is the name and the year. So,
And the
yeah.
name and the year. And I agree with you. We are only citing the name and the year. The information now, when you look at it in information in terms of what he said, then you are paraphrasing the information. And I would like to clarify that what I mean by this citation is just the name and the year. Thank you for that clarification. The name and the year. Only the name of the author and the year of publication, so that we don't get confused. That. Right. So we are here now. Yes? Go ahead.
And at what point do you write et al. In the text section?
A good question. We are getting there. Just hold on to that question. I'm getting there. When it comes to the point of the number of authors. Right now, we are dealing with just one author for demonstration purposes on parenthetical and unparenthetical. When I move to the part where we are going to deal with authors and the number of authors, we will be able to see the etal provided there. And even the number of authors, how we deal with 20 authors, more than 20 authors, we're going to deal with that. So hold on to that question. So now we have understood.
Excuse me, Reverend.
Yes, go ahead.
Just before I move to the next slide, my question is about this slide that is actually displayed.
Okay.
On the second last sentence. On second last, that is use ampersand to join the authors, then a comma and space before the year of publication. What does that mean?
When you have this one, the ampersand, and this one was meant to, when you're using now this parenthetical and you have put the information, or rather the name of the author, the first author and a second author, in between here, we have put the ampersand and and the year. I hope that is clear now.
Okay, the ampersand is the and.
This one and. And why we use the and the ampersand, as you can see here, when you have put the author's information inside the bracket, the parenthetical, and you have the first author here and another author here. What will join these two authors to mean that this work belongs to these two authors is the ampersand. But when you're giving us a story and you want to tell us Smith and John, 2015, you will not put the ampersand in between Smith and John when it is non-parenthetical. I hope that is correct.
Noted. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So we go now to paraphrasing and direct quoting. And in this case, we are going to deal with two ways of direct quoting. And then I'll be talking about when you do the direct quoting, the pagination and the year, etc. I'll be talking about them. But I want you to get the difference between when you are dealing with direct quoting, when you have less than 40 words, and when you have more than 40 words. So you're going to count the number of words if you directly quote, or to use a simpler language, when you copy and paste someone's work. If it is more than 40 words, there is a way that we are going to deal with that. When it is less than 40 words, hold on to that. Now, when we have less than 40 words, when we have less than 40 words, what do? You incorporate it into the text and close the quotation with double quotation. quotation marks. This is an example. We have a story that someone was giving here, and you would like now to cite it non-parenthetically. So that's with Robbins et al. Don't mind about it. I'll be talking about the number of others later. And then has given us the pagination, or rather the year and the pagination, if I'm interested in that particular document. And then what is put inside the quotation marks is the exact words that this person copied or picked directly from the author. And then you put that inside the quotation marks you can see here. The same can happen where you give us now the story, you give us the author, the name of the author, and the year, but the pagination, you bring it at the end. And here we need to complete this by putting to complete it. Yeah, fine. So you bring in the pagination at the end. So that is acceptable. So what the difference you get here between those ones with less than 40 words and those ones with more than 40 words is the question of putting in the entire information inside the quotation marks. But what happens when you have more than 40 words? What happens? What happens when you have more than 40 words before I come to parenthetical so that you get the difference? When you have more than 40 words, get hold of this. You indent that information the way it is. We don't put the quotation marks. You just indent. You can see the indentation. And then you use the block, but then you provide us with the author name, the year, the page where we can actually go and retrieve the same information that you got. So the difference here between 40 words, more than 40 words and less than 40 words, is the use of quotation marks. Now, we now qualify this, or rather we now talk about parenthetical and non-parenthetical. Having understood what to do with less than 40 words, or when you have more than 40 words. Now, parenthetically, again, we are saying, and parenthetically, you're putting the author's information outside the bracket. What you will put inside the bracket is the year of publication, and even you can put the year of publication and the pagination. But also you can put just the year of publication, but the pagination comes at the end. That is non-parenthetical. You're giving us a story. So it is non-parenthetical. When you are quoting it parenthetically and you have less than 40 words, what are we going to do? Remember, parenthetically, you have to put the author's information inside the bracket, the same way we have done it here. So you give us the story, you quote it, you use the quotation marks, and then at the end, you give us the author's name and the year and the pagination, such that if this person reading your work is interested in going back to the same work that you read, will be able to get the exact information that you got. I hope it is clear up to that point.
Excuse me, Mr. Congo, could you just
Yes,
go back
yes.
to that slide? I
I
wanted to
go to
point out, yeah,
I
the
go,
slide that you were on previously. I just
this one?
wanted to know the one that we were talking about, the quotation mark. No, oh, no, go ahead, not behind. Where we were last.
Let me see. Sorry, this one. Okay, here. Molim, we are here.
Yes. Example, the way we had indentation, example, where we had indentation, example. Actually, I was about to ask for indentation, but you've taken us there. But I want us, yes, here. This is something, yeah, this is where now I wanted to, maybe it will be for the benefit of the class, that when you do the quotation here, for example, here you have medical needs are met by those in the medical disciplines. Non-medical needs may be addressed by anyone on the team. The quotation mark there, there is no full stop inside that quotation mark. The full stop now is brought to where the bracket is, or the parenthesis is end. That's what I wanted to point out there. People, where the full stop, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that interjection. And it is very, very important because you realize there are some people who make a mistake to bring in the full stop inside. Then they forget that this is part of the information that we need to be put inside, or rather as a continuous sentence before you put the full stop. Thank you very much. I hope up to that point we are clear and you can differentiate when you have less than 40 words and when you have more than 40 words. And you already now know how to do the citation, whether parenthetically or non-parenthetically. Okay, I hope no question. Or if there is a question, you can raise it up now. We'll be able to address it. Now I'm headed to actual in-text citation. And we are going to deal with the number of authors. And we bring into that question of it al. We'll be dealing with it at this point. We have one author. What are we going to do with one author? Use the name and the year, either parenthetically or non-parenthetically, whenever you cite the author in the document. So this one has no problem. I think we have dealt with it when we are dealing with Smith. Then when you have two authors, you use the article at in non-parenthetical citation. You use the ampersand when you're dealing with parenthetical citations. I hope now that is clear because it's a repetition. And if there is a question, you can always raise it. When you have more than two authors,
I have a question. So
yes, yes.
Mine is on just back on the slide you were doing.
I go back?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, one author, or rather, which name do you pick if the author is Osanya Milton Weyimi? Which name do you pick any name or you pick the first name?
No, you will pick the last one, which is the surname.
Oh, so you pick the last. You pick the last name.
Like your three names, if they are provided the three names, which would be the surname? In our context, normally we pick the last one to mean the surname, unless Dr. you have a different opinion. Doctor, are you here? Maybe she's taking a cup
Yes,
of tea.
I'm on.
Yeah, there is that question. You have three names. And I'm saying the surname normally comes at the end.
Yes, if you have three names, for example, myself, I have three names, Caroline Ayuya Mwaka.
You use what
Now,
for your
if I arrange my book or my journal in that way, it means Mwaka is my surname, and we always use the author's surname. So Mwaka becomes my son. So usually you look at the document, even the way the author has arranged their names. Like Mzungu can be called Caroline Judith Ross. That's how the journal is. So you begin with Ross because that is the last name.
Clear, very clear.
You
Now
always begin with the author's last name.
Is it clear now?
Can we try Othello's name?
Now, Avero, you can put your name. Can I stop sharing? You put your name. Your three names. What are your three names?
I have many names, but people usually use good one because these are the names you will find in all my newspaper articles.
And if you're not so sure, you just Google that particular article or journal or book. You'll see a lot of even references along that. It will show you the last name of the author or her last name.
Okay. The point brought home. The arrangement, when the author is arranging his words, his names or her names, you pick the last name. That would mean the author's surname to be used for our reference. All right. So we are done with one author and two authors. Now we are looking at when we have more than two authors. When we have more than two authors. You cite only the surname of the first author, followed by ER, not iterized, and with a period after or and the year for all citations. This is a departure from the 6th edition, where we were required to put so many names. I think there were 5, and then you start using, but we were told in the 6th edition that when you are writing the paper, the very first encounter with so many number of authors, you put all of them there up to I think 6 or something. I'm really now forgetting the 6th edition. And then after that, the subsequent entries of citations, you put in the 8R. With 7th edition, you do it right from the word go. So you will start with the surname. If there are more than 2 others, just the surname and then it we have put here. When it is non-parenthetical, you simply, an example given here, Musili 2018. When it is parenthetical, Musili 8R, you can see the full stop and comma and then the year. All right. I hope that is clear that in the in-text citation, you have more than 2 authors. You start there with 8R.
Question.
Go ahead, Otieno.
Won't the other authors feel jealous that you are only citing the first one? And so if that's it, then whenever we are like publishing something, do we make sure that we are the first author so that at least you are mentioned? Because etal is somehow hurtful.
If Boaz Othello and Taslin write a book, then they say Taslin et al.
It doesn't sound fair.
You have to fight to be the first author. For you now to appear in the 7th edition, the others will be other writers, other authors.
And just to add, Mwalimu Kungu, is that
yes,
when you come to the field of authorship, academic, and scholarship, what we call the academy or the scholars, there is no jealousy. Everybody has a role. Everybody contributes. So there's no jealousy at all. People don't feel jealous because others are the first or the author. No, because usually it means there's a bigger contribution for everybody. There's a role. Probably the first author maybe might have been the one who came up with the idea, or who came up with the outline, or who wrote more. So there's always the reason why someone is first, second, or third. I have done so many papers with my students, and I have come second. There's no jealousy at all. So your contribution and other things play a big role in all these things. And if you have to be a first author, you need to do more contribution. Where a lot is given, much is given, much is expected.
So that question is answered, and I believe now we are good. Unless there is a question in regard to the number of authors. But it is clear now. More than 2 authors, just first author, the rest it's out. Okay, now we move to group author, whereby maybe an organization like Daystar, they have published a particular book or an article. What are we going to do? You indicate the name in full in the first citation and abbreviate thereafter. An example would be American Psychological Association, to be abbreviated as APA. But in the beginning, when you're giving us for the first time APA, you don't just go straight and talk about, or rather put the abbreviation APA without letting us know what APA really means. So as you start using that corporate, that organization or other, first of all, let us understand what that abbreviation really means to us now. When now American Psychological Association, then you can put that in brackets to mean APA. Then in the subsequent entries, then you will put the APA because you have made us understand what APA is all about. In deciding whether to abbreviate the name of a group author, ensure to give enough information in the text citation for the reader to locate the entry in the reference list without difficulty. Remember, the purpose of the in-text citation is to help the reader, to tell the reader that I read this work from Mwaka 2018. And if you go to my reference list, you will see the full information about Mwaka, about the title, the year, and even the link that will take you to where I read that particular document. There are people, when they're reading your work, they would like also to refer, or rather even to come to the library and access the exact document that you read. Maybe it is exciting, maybe they would like to have more information, more clarity, and in your case, maybe you have just given a summary. So make it easy for your reader to be able to access that particular document that you read and you quoted in your work. Abbreviate only if you have used the term name at least 3 times in the whole document. In the reference list, use the name in full. In the others, please do not abbreviate. Sometimes you may encounter work.
Excuse me, Reverend.
Go ahead.
How do you cite the work that has been cited by another?
Hold on to that question. When maybe you have read a book by Caroline and you have written something and you have quoted Caroline, and another person is now reading your work and not Caroline's work, how are you going to quote that one? We are coming to that. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes you may encounter work that has no author. So what are we going to do with the work that has no author? If the work has no author and it is not written anonymous, it's just there, this work has no author, what are you going to do? You use the first few words of the title, or if that title is short enough, you can just use the entire title, followed by a comma, then the year. In other words, the title of that document will replace the author. Titles of an article, chapter, web page should be placed in double quotation marks, while titles of a periodical, book, report, or brochures should be italicized. And the example is given here. I think I have touched the screen. So like the case of a book title, we have italicized. The case of an article, it is studying, it's not italicized for that matter. That you need to know the difference. But you may also encounter work that has no author, but it is written anonymous. Meaning the author is not interested maybe in getting to be known, or rather, maybe they don't want to be known. 7th edition has put it clear that you can only use the word anonymous if that particular work is indicated as anonymous. So you will use anonymous in place of the author, and then you give us the year. But if that work didn't have the author, you don't just put anonymous. No, you give the title of that particular document or a few words from the title so that we can be able to know where you got that work from. But if it is written anonymous, use anonymous. Okay. Now the question. Who had asked this question? Someone asked about the secondary sources. Like the case here, we have the original work, and then we have the secondary or the person who led that work and used it. An example, if you have Smith 2010, work is cited in Kariuki's 2016. But for your case, you did not read Smith's work. But what you read was Kariuki's work. How are we going to cite that? In this case, you know the idea belonged to Smith. And the person who cited Smith's work is Kariuki. So you will say Smith as cited by who? Kariuki in 2016. And this one should be used sparingly. I hope now that answers your question. I hope so. Is there yes?
Yes, I have a question, Doctor.
Go ahead. Yes.
You've talked about, you indicate there Smith as cited in karaoke that year. So how will you know that the document you are reading, it was first Smith's work, then as it's now seen, karaoke is the one who seems to have used it. Is it indicated there in the document, or it is me to find out? I don't know whether you've got my question.
I hope I did, and I can see Jane is with us. Jane, would you mind answering this question, or I go ahead?
Sorry, yes, Samuel, I can answer.
Yes, go ahead.
What happens? Secondary sources, like someone has mentioned, is where you are, what you are citing, or the content you are citing, where you have read it from, that author has cited someone else. For example, the example given here, Smith is cited in Karaoke 2016. It means the document you are reading was Karaoke's document of 2016. Then as you read that bit that you are citing, that idea, that in Karaoke has indicated very clearly that they got that information from Smith's document. So you are getting it as you read the secondary work. The secondary work is the one you are reading, because that's not where the idea was originally mentioned. The idea was originally mentioned in Smith, which could have been Smith 2010. And actually this should be, the year is supposed to be there, Smith 2010, cited, that is if the work was 2010. Smith 2010 is cited in Karaoke 2016. The secondary source is what you are citing. Secondary in the sense that it's not the primary source of that idea. The primary source is Smith. Karaoke is citing Smith, and therefore, is it clear?
Let me also give a story, maybe familiar with Dr. Caroline. Are you here? There is Sigmund Freud, the author of that theory of psychoanalysis. Now, if I'm quoting psychoanalysis as a theory by Sigmund Freud, and I'm not the one, or rather, the person who maybe Carol noted as and quoted Sigmund Freud in the psychoanalysis theory, and I'm the one now reading Carl's work. I am not reading Sigmund Freud's work. I'm reading Carl's work. What will I do now? I will put, according to Sigmund Freud, as cited by Carl in 2016. Because what I'm reading right now is Carl's work, but this Carl's work has cited Sigmund. So it is not her idea. She has gotten the idea from Sigmund. That, I believe, now is clear. But what will appear in the reference list? What will appear in the reference list will now not be Smith, but now because I didn't read Smith's work, I read Karaoke's work, I will have to go to Karaoke's work in the reference. I hope now that is clear, but we will come to the reference list later.
Yeah, and maybe Rev Apple, in that example, Smith, then in brackets are cited in karaoke. Is it in or by? I don't, is it, do we say in, Ama? That is how it should be.
I will repeat that one.
In karaoke. You see that example you've given us there, the one that you have highlighted in yellow?
Yes.
Sorry, the one that you have highlighted in yellow. As cited, is it by karaoke or in? Oh, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
A very good question.
But is that the system of APA? It should be like that.
Mr. Congo, can I maybe come in?
Come in.
Yeah, I think now we are talking about a body of knowledge here. So it's in that body of knowledge. Maybe that's my take.
Inside the body of knowledge.
Excuse me, Reverend.
Yes.
As written as cited in Kariuki 2016, I think we are referring to the document, which is Kariuki's written in 2016, not
it is
Kariuki. We are not referring to Kariuki, but we are referring to a document that Kariuki wrote.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you.
That is clear now, eh?
Mm.
Thank you. When you have two or more words within the same parenthesis, an example being for two or more works by different authors who are cited within the same parenthesis. Like you have Kariuki, you read the work about by Kariuki 2012, and you have another work that was written by Mukangi 2020, and also you read another one by Smith 2014. And this one is inside the parenthesis. And when we talked about parentheses, they are inside the bracket. There has been a confusion here where people don't know whether to put according to the year or according to the author information, or rather the name of the author. Let me not use author's information, but I use the name of the author. So there has been this confusion. So what you need to do is you list these names of the authors in alphabetical order by the author's surname and separate the citations with semicolons. As you can see here, we read Kariuki. When you organize this work alphabetically, you will find Kariuki coming ahead of M, I, J, K, L, M, N, S. So Smith comes at the end. But the confusion has been where people put the year ahead and saying that this one came first before the other one, or this one is, organized chronologically. No, you organize it alphabetically according to the surname, the other surname. So if you have that work mentioning or talking about a similar concept, and you want to put, they have been put together in one parenthesis, then you organize them alphabetically. I hope that is clear. Now let's look at personal communication. And when we talk about personal communication, these will include things like letters, memos, electronic communication. Sometimes you go into the field and you interview people, you carry out that personal interview. Sometimes you may also have telephone conversations and you want to put them in your citation. So what are you going to do? You only, in 7th edition, as we have talked about APA 7th edition, you only cite in the in-text, but you don't bring the personal communication into the reference case. What you do, you give the initials as well as the surname of the communicator and provide as exact date as possible. An example is given here, TK Roots Personal Communication, April 18, 2001. When I look at this citation, I'll be able to tell that this one is a personal communication. So you had a communication with that person. I can see the date and I can see the year. What is cited, especially from online networks, should have scholarly relevance. So you don't just quote things for the sake of quoting and citing them, but they must be putting or adding value to your scholarly. Okay. We go to the reference list.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead and ask. Yes.
I'm just wondering, speeches made by prominent people in a subject for a particular subject matter, and that are relevant to maybe the study you're doing or the thesis you're doing. Could you cite that under personal, or how do you cite that?
A very good question that we can also contribute as scholars. Jenny, you are here also. When you talk about speeches and maybe they are recorded and they are put online and maybe they are there in YouTube or CD format, I guess that's what you're asking about. That we can be able to access them from YouTube, we can be able to access them from other audio materials
Or you even have an access to the text itself, the original text that was read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jane, are you able to respond to this?
Yes, Samuel.
Go ahead.
A speech, as Samuel had begun to explain, there will be where it is, where that source is. It could be on YouTube. You are citing that YouTube, and APA has guidelines for such. Audio, video, online sources. Actually, one of the, as someone asked, what are the differences between APA 7th edition and APA 6th edition? One of the things that the 7th edition has captured, which the 7th had not, and of course, because of when the 7th edition, 6th edition was published, is the online sources. APA 7th edition is quite extensive on that. That you can capture like a YouTube something or anything that is online, and it could be a video. So that's where speeches will be captured. Personal communication is communication you had with someone, a conversation, an email conversation, a telephone conversation, an interview. It is a conversation you had with the source that you are citing. Thank you. I hope it's clear.
Well, thank you. Sorry, Malimo. While it is clear about the YouTube and, my question was where does that category of citation fall into? Does it fall in personal communication? If not, where does it fall?
Oh, that one. Jen, will you respond? All right, go ahead. Jen? Jen?
It falls within online citing of online sources. When you get to the, and you remember what we are presenting here, we are highlighting the key things. But when you get to the real manual, the real APA manual, it's a big book. It is very clear on how you cite each of those things. Online sources, be it via video, a blog, a web page, it's very clear on how you cite each of those specific online sources. So there are guidelines, very clear guidelines on that. And I will again repeat, it is not personal communication, because personal communication is communication you had with the person you are citing. There was a communication between the two of you, between you and the source. So it is not within personal communication.
I hope now, what we will do, we will enrich this slide and include things like video and how to cite the video. But the bottom line, when we are citing, whether it is a video, whether it is a book, all we need is the author's information and the year. But when it comes to personal communication, you qualify that as personal communication. But when it is a video speech that you got from the YouTube, you're going to give us the author's information of that YouTube presentation that was done and the year. Then at the end, when it comes to the reference list, that's where you will give us the full information. So we will enrich this as we continue. But in the meantime, because as Jenny was saying, we just highlighted a few things which are highlighted from the general APA 7th edition book. It's quite huge and good for you to read the entire book. But in the meantime, the definition of the personal communication is limited to the letters, which are quite private, the memos, electronic communications like interviews. You go into the village and you interview someone and you want to quote that person because of what they said, you had a telephone conversation. That again, it is not something that we can keep in the library and tell people, go to the library and refer to this personal communication. No, but we are able to know that this one has a disclaimer. It is a personal communication. I hope it's clear now. Okay, I hope it is clear. And if not, then
I will read. I will have to go read further because in my mind, I'm looking at, for example, I'm doing a study this is just an example. I'm doing a study on multipartyism in Kenya, right?
Yes.
Then I want to quote the famous speech by the late president Moi when he was quoted, and it's a speech, a famous speech where he says, "I now repeal, Section 2A of the Constitution and allow multipartyism." Where do I quote that? So I guess I will have to read further, but that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Now you have come home.
Excuse me, Brother Congo. Let me just.
Othello, why are you laughing?
No, let me just respond to our sister's question.
Yes.
So long as that has been published, so long as that statement has been published, it can be quoted because we have guidelines for quoting from newspapers, magazines, and also other publications. Because the APA volume is huge, I think here we cannot exhaust everything in that APA. So for quoting newspaper is actually provided for quoting magazine is provided for. Magazine articles, newspaper articles. Yeah.
And generally what we are looking at is that Moi's speech. It could be in the archives. It could be in our YouTube channel. It could be somewhere that we can access. So if we put that, we only need to provide the author of that document, that voice, that speech, and the year that was published. Then at the reference list, you give us the link that can lead us to that video, that can lead us to that archive, to that library, so that we're able to know whether it is a written document, whether it is an audio document, and we can be able to access it. So in the internet, so it is not personal communication, has been published, or rather we can get hold of it.
Thank you.
All right. Then if it is published in government printers, it has already been published. So if I quote it, I'll put it in the reference list, because if you go to the government printers, or if someone bought it and have it in their library, one can easily be able to access that particular speech or that particular document. Now we come to the reference list. How do we make the reference?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, Josephine?
Let me hope I did not miss this point.
Yes.
That we are allowed to mix both non-parenthetical and parenthetical.
Perfect. You got it right. That you need to use that variety. Because when I'm reading, I need to see, you don't keep on telling me Smith and, I know where I'm seeing at the end of your paraphrasing the ampersand, that you change the taste of what I'm reading from your work.
Okay, thank you.
It's allowed and good for that matter. Now we have a reference list to make. And if you remember the reference list that I showed you from that basis, maybe if I don't make an assumption that we all know what I'm talking about, let me go back to that basis and show you the reference list. This is the reference list created by this author here. And when we were looking at this reference list, you can see it has what we are calling hanging indent. The other information is provided here, then the rest of the information is indented. And this one is hanging indent, Adams, and then the rest of information we are going to look at as we continue. But I want you to see the format of hanging indentation. And then you see the alphabetical order. You organize them according to the alphabetical order. The others we are going to learn as we continue. Now we have books, and we have reports, and we have journals. What we need in the reference list is the author's last name. An example that we have seen here, the author's last name, The author's last name, they have come here. You can see them. This one is a corporate name or an organization name, and this other one is an organizational name. I think this one had so many organizational names. And then we have the author's information, and rather the author's name provided here, as we are going to see it.
Size of the font.
Yes, I increase the font, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for that. Let me do that. I have increased. Can
Thank
you
you.
see from your head now?
Yes, thank you.
Can you see the hanging indent? That Adams and then the rest is hanging. I mean, Adams is hanging. In other words, when I look at this, I'll be able to tell that this is a new entry of a particular citation that was made in the index, that now they have provided a new reference, and I can be able to move and see all other references with a quick glance, and I'm able to tell that this is a new entry. So we have the hanging index. All right. Let me go back. Yeah. All right. So what I have said about the author's information, you provide the last name, then first initial and second initial and the year. Then you itemize the title of the book. Seventh edition do not require you to give us the place of publication. What you need is to provide the publishing company or the publisher. And if it is possible, you give us the link or where we can get that particular book. They insist on you giving us the link that one can be able to hit and they get to the actual document. I think you have seen that you provide the surname, which is here, and then the initials. If it was Congo Samuel, and then so you put Congo, then S comes here, etc. So you have seen that. Unless there is a question with that, that's how we are dealing with a book. What you iterate and what will make the difference of between a book, a journal article, is the iteration. You iterate the book, the title of the book. You capitalize only the first word of the title and of the subtitle, if there is a subtitle. And any other proper nouns, iterate the title. And close additional information given on the publication for its identification and retrieval. For example, if you have an edition, you need to include that information about the edition, whether it's second edition, third edition, and the report. We're going to look at these practically as we continue. Do not use a period between the title and the parenthetical. I'm going to look at this practically, so don't worry. Let's look at now the book practically. We have said we have a book written by Kefara. Then the initial is B, 2006. What we have iterized is the title of the book, and then we provided the publisher. I hope that is clear. When we have the two authors, we have put the first author, then the initial of the first author, then we have put the ampersand, and then we have put the rest of information about the author and the year. What we have iterized is the title of that particular book. And when it is a third edition, we have also qualified by putting the third edition and given the publisher. Now, you may encounter a book chapter. What are we going to do with a book chapter? Give us the author of that information, full stop, the year it was published, the title of the chapter.
Excuse me,
yes,
sir.
I repeat. Oh, sorry. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. Let me increase it that way. Is it good now?
Yes, that is better.
That is better. Perfect. Now, we have sorry, this one is hiding. The person is hiding from my head. Something is being hidden here. I need to bring it down to stop hiding the information. Okay, just a minute. We are here on not journal article. We are done with the book. Now we come back to the journal article. And as I was saying, you give us the author's last name, the initials, the second initial, the year, and what you will give us is the title there, but you don't
Reverend,
yes.
can you please repeat about the book? You are a little bit fast there.
Let me go back to the book, and before I even come to the book chapter, the book, here we are. You have a book written by Kefara, and Kefara is the surname, and maybe Kefara is baptized Benson. We are going to say Kefara is the surname, and remember Kefara 2006 is what we had put in the in-text citation. So we want now to give full information about Kefara. So we are giving Kefara B full stop. B is starting in for the first initial, the initial of the first name. Then the year of publication, 2006, you can see here. What we have authorized is the title of the book. And then you give the publisher at the end. I know in the 6th edition, we were giving the author's information, that is the author, details about the author, the year, and the title could be iterized. That was still within the 6th edition. And then we were required to give the place of publication. But with the 7th edition, not a must to give us, in fact, it is not required to give us place of publication. So what we have iterized in the book is the title of the book. I hope it's clear now. I move the chapter. Is it clear?
Excuse me before
Yes, it's clear now.
It's clear.
Before we go
We
to
come
the
now to
newspaper.
a book chapter.
Excuse me
In the
before
book
we go to
chapter,
newspaper. Can you hear me?
people have been having a problem with the book chapter where they iterate the title of the chapter instead of iterizing the title of the book. What are we supposed to do with a book chapter? Give us the author, the year, the title of the chapter, the editor, if there is an editor, then the title of the book is what you are going to itemize. And give us the pagination. And finally, the publisher. An example is given here. Hemingway, 1999. The title of that book chapter is The Killers in J. Update. That is the edition. The Best American Short Stories is the title of the book. And if you go to page 78 to 80, that's where you will find that chapter. And the publisher is Houghton Mifflin. Another one we have here by Bello, 1999. What we have iterized is the title of the book, and we have given the source where you can get that particular book. But the title of the chapter is not iterized. So invert the chapter author's names, but not the editor's names. For a book with no editor, simply include the word in before the book title to mean that this one is inside, or rather, this book has no editor. So you are only saying where you got it from. Is it clear? Or do you need more clarification? Tell me. Okay, we are done with the chapter. You are also in postgraduate studies and you have encountered journal articles. I don't want to assume that we all know
Sorry,
the
sir. Sorry,
difference
sir.
between, yes?
If you don't mind, I apologize for this, sir.
Mhm.
If you go back to where you cited the link, see where you have the link, the second one by Bello S. So, sir, what if what you read from that link is on PDF and that PDF is paginated? Do you write that, or you just write the link the way you put there?
No, if it is paginated, it is now a document that we can actually even tell where that particular document was found from. And it is important to provide the pagination.
Yeah, because sometimes I've seen links which when you open it is actually an article rather than a page of the internet. And thanks for that clarification.
And I want to clarify further and put it this way. If it is a journal article in a PDF, I'm coming to that. If it is a book chapter that was downloaded and it is in PDF, like when we were dealing with ebook central, you remember, we were downloading books and book chapters, and you could be having a standalone book chapter, and that book chapter was coming from the entire book, and that book chapter had paginations from maybe page 99 to 100. You will still need to provide the pagination, because when I go to the actual book, I'll be able to tell the book that you read.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If it is an article, karibu sana. If it is an article from maybe a journal, that's where we are now. Now, you remember last time or last week, but one, we were downloading articles from the journals like Emerald and the others. How will you quote these journal articles, or rather provide the reference list for these journal articles? I don't want to make a mistake or an assumption that we all know what is the difference between a journal and a journal article. I was once seated with someone needs to mute. There's someone who needs to mute. Okay. I was seated in my office sometimes back with a student who was struggling to differentiate between a journal and a journal article. And was telling me we were told to go to the library and refer to a journal. And then we also refer to a journal article. I don't want to make an assumption that we all understand what is a journal and what is a journal article. Mwalimu Vero, are you in class?
Yes, I'm in class.
I want you to give us a definition between a journal and a journal article.
A journal is a peer-reviewed publication. The article is the article within that peer-reviewed publication.
So you may find 10 articles in one journal. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can get more, even many articles in that journal. That journal can be just like a pamphlet, which has very many articles.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have like Journal of Knowledge Management. Within that journal, there are several articles inside that journal. And what you do with journal article, you provide the author's last name, the first initial, the second initial, the year. The title of the article is not iterized. What is iterized is the title of the journal and the volume. The issue number is not iterized. Then you give us the page and the DOI. And I also don't want to assume that you understand what a DOI is. Anyone who can try and answer that question, what is the DOI? Anyone with an idea?
Looking at DOI to be direct object identification. I'm not sure about the D, but object identification, I'm sure about.
You got it, provided you know it is identification of a document. So every document, a scholarly document that are published online, they are given a unique number, which is that DOI number. And if you have that number, you can actually get directly to that particular document. So in terms of APA, when you are referring to, or rather when you want to cite, or rather to provide reference list for a journal article, remember what you need is the author's information, that is the author's last name, the initial. What you will iterate is the title of the journal and not the title of the journal article. And also the volume, but you don't iterate the issue. We are going to look at this practically. The periodical title provided in full in title case letters and it is iterized. Give the volume number after the periodical title. We are going to look at this practically. Include the journal issue if available. We are going to look at that practically also. And give the page numbers because we would like to know. Someone has given us the full name of DOI, Digital Object Identifier. This is Jimmy Sanya, such that now you're able to identify that document electronically. When it comes to prints, in the place of DOI, what do we have? We have those ones, ISBN numbers, we have SSN for the journals, for the books, we have them, the ISBN number. Now we have the journal article practically giving an example how to cite this particular article. We have this author's information, or rather the author. I don't want to use the word information again, but I want to say the author, the initials of the author, and then the title of the article is not iterized. What has been iterized is the title of the journal, and this one is not iterized. Then we have provided the link, or rather the DOI, that one can be able to click and get to the actual article. I hope that is clear. We come to master's thesis and dissertations. How do you reference them? Again, it has been made simple by 7th edition. All you need to do, provide us with the information about the author, that is the last name, first initial, the year. Then you iterate the title of that master's thesis. If it is unpublished, qualify that with unpublished doctoral dissertation. And then you give us the name of that institution. If you got it from a database, like the one we have shown you from our institutional repository, then you will tell us where you retrieved it from and you give us the link where we can be able to go and access the same particular document. We have another example here of Mwangi 2021, and the title is iterized. You can see the title is iterized here. And then a doctoral dissertation, which is in Daystar University, published by Daystar University. And then we have given you the link that you can easily access that particular document. Now we come to magazines and articles in print source. What you will need to do again, give us the author's information, that is the surname, the year, the month. Then you write the title of that magazine article. You write it, but what you will iterate is the magazine itself, the title of the magazine. And then you give us the pagination. Remember that information. It's simple. It's simple. Then we have magazine article. I think that one I have mentioned, the examples I have given. When it is online, you only now change that with provision of HTTP or the link that you can be able to access that particular article from this link that you access. So the only difference here is the link, but all the others is provide the author's information, the year of publication, title of the article, the subtitle. What you iterate is the name of the magazine, the volume number, And what you don't itemize again is the number if it is given. Here I know we are home with Juan Otero in the newspaper field. How do you cite an article that was written by Otero in a newspaper? If it is in print, again, we have an example here. Give us the author's information, rather the details about the author. Give us the year, the month, and the day if they're provided. Like if it's Daily Nation, again, which date, which year, we need to know that. Then the title of the article, But what you will itemize is the title of the newspaper. If it is Daily Nation, you will now itemize the Daily Nation and you give us the page number for the whole article if I'm interested to go to and read that particular article. All right. So when it is online, the only thing that you will put, which is quite different from the print, is provision of the link. Now we come to edited work with no author. An example is given here where you provide the author's details, then you provide the edits to mean it's an edited work that has no author, but we are using the editor's information to replace the author. Then what you will itemize is the title of that book, and you give us the publisher. The difference when it comes to the electronic resources is you have to give us a link to be able to access that particular document. There is a lot that is happening in 7th edition, so I would encourage you to pick a copy from the library and read, and you'll get to know these differences and these other aspects. Some of them in terms of the tenses, use of variety of verbs, what we have been saying about parenthetical and non-parenthetical, consistency in terms of English, are you using English, American or British English? So all these are some of the aspects that you may need to refer to the entire book, that is the 7th edition of APA, and you are able to, these are just highlights that we got a few aspects that we felt would be useful to you in understanding the 7th edition style. All right. In that case, we come to the end. I know we are past time with 5 minutes. We were supposed to cover a whole program or topic of Zotero. Zotero should come in to help us with citation. It is a tool that will act like a research assistant for you. Whenever you download a document, it keeps for you. When you want to cite that document, it will always ask you, do you want to cite this document? Do you want to use APA, 7th edition? Then it will automatically put these things for you. But with the knowledge that you have gotten now, you can be able to edit that particular document because it's a machine and it is generating the references for you. You will need that knowledge that we have shared. However, we will make it easy if Dr. will allow me to come next time and we deal with Zotero plus other reference and citation management tools. But I will dwell more on Zotero. Dr. are you there? We have given an overload of information today. Do I still, or do I have 1 more hour to continue? Dr.
Sir?
Yes.
Yeah, before the Tari comes in, I would like to personally thank you so much for the presentation. I believe that without doubt of contradiction, that it's really been informative and we've learned a lot. While expressing my gratitude, I feel like I should ask a question about the citation from Google Scholar. You know, I think when you have an article on the platform, there is a button from Google Scholar where it's indicated site, and you have maybe to click there and choose the kind of format that you want to use. Yes, thank you so much for that. Yeah, yeah. Now, when you're citing, what would you suggest that we avoid doing so that we may, like now they're at site? Yes, now you're there. Yes. Now you have the APO. Would you just please copy it? Yes.
No, yes,
No, you know what? But it is possible that the article was written and cited in the time APO was in the 6th edition or 5th edition. It doesn't always mean that, this Google Scholar is just like our repository. It has articles for 2019, 20, I don't know what, 2016. Doesn't mean that every article has used the same, what is it called? The same writing, referencing style. No. Even Google Scholar, you'll be surprised that theology or other have different way of citing. So they only cite, they're giving you citations as per that article, that time, that whatever. It is a responsibility also to ensure that it is correctly cited in the way you'd like to cite in your current citations. So if you want to cite, they'll show you. But that is how Google Scholar cites. What about Daystar? What about Strathmore? What about University of Nairobi? You should always suit. But the good thing is that that information is sufficient enough. It's just probably the way it will be placed. Maybe a different writing style will be different from another referencing style. So you don't stick to that particular. In fact, you could get a good, I don't know if you can show them a theological. They have shown citation, but you see, when you're lifting that citation, that's why Zotero is important, because now it will give you the APA 7th edition on how you want them to arrange your information. So even if you go to my Lofty, you're likely to find different types of citations just because we come from different type schools, and also depends on the time it was cited. We have now moved from 6th edition. Like if you find my article, most of them are in the 6th edition. Even if Google tells you, I think I give a good example. Just go to Google Scholar, Dr. Reverend, search for Ayuya and Atwoli, or Ayuya and Jaguga. I'm giving the current article. Ayuya, Jaguga, Atwoli.
Jaguga
Atwoli,
is J-L-N.
Atwoli, Atwoli, the current the psychiatrist. Just search something like that. That one. Now you see, if you cite, go to cite. It is you on your citing. These are the articles associated to us in this part. So you can cite and say Jaguga et Florence et al. That one. Or you say, but you see, when you're doing a full cite, that is MLA. You've been told APA. For you to cite APA, you have to say Jaguga, Ayuya, Francisca, Atwoli, and etc. If it's Chicago, you do that. But you have to be sure and 100%, even that APA is 7. It doesn't always mean that it might be 7. But I'm not so sure whether Google Scholar does up-to-date citation. But it's just showing you a very good format of using different types of citations.
So thank you very much, Dr. Ali. And it can only guide you, like you can see this one is APA, and then you come, using the knowledge that we have given you. Where is the iterization? So this is the title of that particular document, and then where to get that particular document in terms of the link. I don't know whether this is the actual.
You see, it is not there.
It's not there.
It's not there at the moment. Now, what does that tell you? It might tell the Google Scholar is using maybe between 6th and 7th edition, probably.
Yes. So
yeah, okay. Excuse please. Now on that note,
yes.
I would suggest if we can do it in form of learning by doing. Is it possible to customize now this the citation that we have, that format that we have? And if it's possible, can we do a demo and see how we, from whatever we will get from Google Scholar, and now customize it to fit now the 7th edition? Is it possible for that to be done?
We practically now do the citation. Now we can as form of an exam, some sort of
Yes.
where you now look at this, like this document. Now you open the document and you get the full bibliographic information about it, and then you write down. In fact, Dr. that should be an assignment where people now can really tell whether they got it right or wrong.
I think so. They were almost being given to do a cut this week, but they have from paper. So I think you should be the one to set this cut.
So now they should look at. I was looking for
Daktari, nimesema wamehepa.
No. You know, when we teach, by the way, when we teach this course, we require that now you do that practically, so that we can see whether you are able to identify, like in this case, you pick the author's information, like this one. Which one do you pick as the first author? Is it Florence? Is it Mathai? Is it Caroline? So who will come first? We'll have Jaguga. Then
and now you see in the citation, you've been showed APA, you begin first with Jaguga, then you go to Ayuya, then Mathai, Ayuya. It is so specific. You don't begin with Florence, don't mix. If it was MLA, they only need 2 citations, and that's a complete reference on the reference list. But you see, for APA now, you have to complete all of us when you're doing the. So we need to give you some exercise. This is usually a matter of practice, by the way.
So
especially now, you see your main document, you have to make sure you're very correctly within the main document doing the right citations.
Okay. So now you can now practically do this, and then you come and compare with what has been provided by Google Scholar. However, as I was saying, it's only in the interest of time. I don't know whether we have an hour. I would have talked about the Zotero and how it helps in creating the citation. Dr. Do we have time next time, or do I continue for another like 45 minutes or an hour? Dr. Ayuya?
Yes.
Do I continue for an hour, or do we meet next time?
No. We'd rather let them go and rest so that they can have a weekend. I know Prof will be coming in tomorrow.
Thank you.
But you give Nani a clap. He has really worked and pushed through. You know, he's a very good listener and a very patient teacher. And I think we will give him another time to find out. Is that okay?
Yes.
Daktari,
Yeah.
Daktari, excuse please. Yes, if we may kindly, because I think this is a very critical, topic to some of us. Can we do a demo? Can we do a demo of how now a complete demo? Because I believe as much as we are growing and we have the ability to read some notes on our own, when we have the guidance from the lecturer, or when we are guided into doing, when we are just shown the first step, now we can be able to catch up and pick it from that. Can we have a demo of the same, please, if we can?
Yeah, Bonakung, you can try to give them different
maybe a text and then ask them to in-text reference and out-of-text. In-text means within the document and how they'll do on out of the document. They've learned about Zotero?
No, we have not thought about Zotero. That's why I wanted them to learn Zotero, because with Zotero, they will be able now to answer most of those questions.
And it's practical because we'll ask all of you to open your computer and laptop so that you go to that application within the Microsoft, we can work. So it will be very practical.
So do we do now or next time?
Oh, no, not today.
Next time.
Next time. What?
Next time you're exhausted.
I also want you to rest. You've done an amazing job. It's not never easy to pull through, especially when you don't teach every other single day. So it's not easy to pull through. You've done an amazing job. So I think that question will be answered, Obadiah, when we are doing with it, because it will be very practical.
Okay. So hold on to that question, Bwana Obadiah. Then when we meet next time, we will do a lot of practice. So don't worry about that. We will do a lot of it. Yes.
And they have to come that time. Everybody needs to have a laptop so that we don't have to teach you when you don't have a laptop. Sit somewhere where you have a laptop and you can work. Otherwise, nobody's going to repeat this kind of things. You have to practice. You know, some things you just have to be given tips and general knowledge as you practice. So thank you so much, Mr. Kongo, for this wonderful course. You are very patient. You are a very good listener, and you can easily work with these students. They're not you're not as fast as me, who talks very fast and can be really quick. So we are so grateful, and we can't wait to see you. We can't wait to see you in the next class so that you can be able to take them through Zotero so that they can be able to save their references and don't have to remember at all, because then automatically it will bring them in the in-text and out of text, in other words, the reference list and within the document. Otherwise, I think today has been grateful, and I hope your time has been well utilized and value for your time. And we can only wish you well and wish you a brilliant weekend as you wait to see the prof coming tomorrow. And I hope you can be able to encourage him by trying to say good things about the lecturers today, so that they are encouraged to continue training in this area. Is that so?
Thanks, Dr. for facilitating this as my take, and bringing all these people from the library. You've made our evening very rewarding. Thank you.
All right. So lovely people, have a wonderful good night. Thank you so much, Mwalimu. God bless you, and wish to see you again in the coming weeks so that you can be able to take up the next level. God bless you.
Thank you very much. So we can have Odero praying for us. Ama, who plays when we are closing?